Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close, I could taste sweet victory. I know this life meant for me. Yeah, why would you bet on Goliath when we got Bet David? Valuetainment, giving value's contagious. This world of entrepreneurs, we get no value to haters. How they run, homie, look what I become. I'm the one.
He was right around the time of Garnett.
Okay, episode 341, special guest today, Kamaru Usman. Some call him Marty, some call him the Nigerian Nightmare. One of the most exciting fighters I've seen fight over the last few years, and it's great to have you on the podcast, man.
Thank you.
How you feeling? How you doing?
Good.
Yeah. So so we just had this the recent card, and Edwards went against Kobe, and I know you had a very interesting exchange with Cormier where you're giving him perspectives on who you think was going to win the fight, and it was very, very interesting how you guys were having a debate, the exchange, and like, no, I'm telling you, I think this is what's going to happen. The challenge of being off and the cardio, the role it plays, et cetera, et cetera. And you were being very matter of fact. And I had a couple questions for you, which we'll get into, is at what level does shit talking cross the line? Like, is there a limit in it, which we'll get into that. But aside from that, first things first, Nigerian Nightmare. Where did that nickname start?
That happens to be just a nickname that I always heard as a child growing up. And it was kind of a nickname that just, every athlete that was just, I guess, more than exceptional in their field, that's a nickname you wanted. If you're Nigerian born, that's the nickname you wanted. It was just, it was like a pride flag that we just carried everywhere because you wanted them to know that you were a nightmare in your sport. And so there's been multiple Nigerian nightmares. There's been, soccer players that were Nigerian nightmares.
Who are the famous Nigerian nightmares?
Christian Okoye in American football.
Okay.
He was a Nigerian nightmare. Everyone knew what a nightmare.
City Chiefs,
Kansas City Chiefs. Everybody knew what a nightmare he was to tackle. Samuel Peters, WBC heavyweight champion of the world, boxing. A lot of people don't know that name because he didn't hold a title for very, very long. But yeah, he was a nightmare, to deal with. And so there've been a few Nigerian nightmares, but these are some of the athletes that I grew up watching. And it was just a name that it was just like, if I ever got an opportunity to carry that flag and represent that name, I want it. But then, I was wrestling, and wrestling, it's not, not as mainstream enough to where you get to really use that name. And then I got into fighting. I'm like, oh man, this is a perfect opportunity.
Take it.
So I took it right away. But the biggest thing about it is you got to live up to it.
Yeah.
And so, you're starting out and you're just thinking, oh, okay, I just need to win a fight. Maybe win the next fight. The next thing you know, it's like, hey, I'm not doing too bad at this. Maybe I've got something here. Now, the world knows that name. And it's like, oh, yeah, I did it. Definitely did it justice.
That's a good point. So, Vinny, who is the Assyrian or the Jewish nightmare? Is there like who would you put
like the Armenian assassin? Yeah, I don't even know who.
I don't know.
I think we have
I don't know
one.
if the nightmare goes. I think the assassin goes.
Assassin.
The Assyrian or the Armenian assassin.
You're like the dream. I don't like if he's a cute. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Assyrian. I know the Jewish nightmare would be Sacha Baron Cohen.
That's who it is?
You know what I mean?
He's
Borat.
Yeah. It's like, oh shit, he's here.
You mess around with that guy, you're gonna find out.
So everybody's got it. We had Ngannou here in Francis, and he's telling a story, and what a crazy story he's got, right? And for you, your story is also an interesting one. Who you grew up with, your father, your mother. I think your father is a Muslim, your mother Christian. You're grown up in that environment, and your dad, I believe, was a pharmacist. And you told a story one time to Mike about how he would get angry. He would get upset with Mike Tyson, where you guys are watching a fight and let me go get a beer or a drink, and he comes back, the fight's over, he's pissed off. What the hell is going on here? Tell us a little bit about the upbringing of Kamaru Usman and then how that led into fighting.
Yeah, it was just great. I knew my mom and dad, something that, a lot of kids nowadays don't necessarily get that pleasure of being around a two-parent household or having both parents in their lives. But grew up with mom and dad, and it was great. I never, when you're a kid, you don't know what you don't know. You're just living life. And my father's Muslim. Mom's a Christian. Never an argument, never a problem.
Really? Wow.
Never a problem about religion. Not once. You know, the boys, it was 3 boys growing up, you know, for a while. The boys just, we did what Dad did. We went to the mosque. We was raised that way. And then we immigrated here to the States where my mom would go to church on Sundays. And after a while, I think it just became one of those, because here, you know, American, you know, Sundays, that's football day. Mm-hmm. You know, I think it kind of got to a point where that's time for us to, all right, go with your mom. Disappear for a couple hours. You know, Dad potentially gets to just be home by himself and watch football. So that was never, it wasn't an issue for us to go to church with her. So, you know, gradually we started going to church, and now we're introduced to a whole nother, you know, religion and all of that. Even though it's a different religion, there's so many similarities to where I think it was absolutely just the best way, because now as an adult, I have that mindset to be able to make an informed decision for myself of if I want to be a Muslim or a Christian or respect both, I have great respect for both religions. So that was just special to me. Now looking back and seeing what, you know, my parents did at that time.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, which I'm sure that it wasn't planned, but which there, like they say, there's no, you know, handbook to parenting, but it just worked out amazingly. And remember, you know, my father's, we'd order the fights growing up, and you know, Tyson was that guy that of course, is Mike Tyson, and my dad loved to have fight parties. So he would have a fight party, and all his friends are there, and we're just kids, so kids aren't necessarily allowed in the living room. But of course, we knew what was going on, and we wanted to see what was going on too. And there was one particular that I remembered. I think it was I can't remember what fight it was, but it was, I mean, well, like most Tyson fights, very quick. And so, you know, things are going on. We're waiting for, you know, things to happen. And the last fight before co-main was done, and then now it's Tyson. He's walking out. And my dad's like, oh, he's walking out and everything's, all right, let me run in the garage and grab a beer. Because, you know, we have that, you know, you have to have that backup fridge in the garage.
Extra beers go back there. Of course.
So,
we all know that.
So he goes in, let's get some drinks for his buddy, because my dad loves to entertain. And on his way back, he hears screaming. He runs in the garage. What happened? What happened? Fight's over.
Oh man.
Oh, my dad's pissed. Like most people were back then, because, you know, when you paid that, what was it, $39.99 back then for a Tyson fight, and it's over? Yeah, most people were pissed.
He pissed off a lot of people, Mike Tyson, those first round knockouts, 10-second knockouts sometimes. Yeah. Back to your father, because you were talking about, you're a father now, right? You have one?
I have one daughter.
You have one daughter. Who was the leader in your household growing up? Because you seem to be like probably the leader in your household. Your father's Muslim, your mother's Christian. Who was the leader in the family? What's the role of the father? How are you embracing what your father taught you, what your mother taught you, and bringing that into your child's life?
My father, of course. I come from a traditional family. I was raised around that. I saw that growing up, and that's how it always worked, you know. And my father's, you know, the leader. My father goes out and I guess with the, you know, if you want to bring it back into primal days, you know, goes out and kills the meat and drags it back and feeds the family. And my mom her role was so important, because if the father's not at home and the kids are starting to grow and they're maturing, there's got to be someone that has that level of understanding and respect for what the father's doing outside. That's rearing these children at home and letting them know that's what your father's doing. That's how important what your father's doing is to what we do here, and keeping the kids in line as far as raising them and helping them grow and understand that as well. Because if that's not there, the father could be out, you know, accumulating or doing whatever he needs to do. But if that respect and that's not being built and cultivated at home, the kids aren't going to respect what you're doing out there. They don't care, because kids don't care. You can have all the money in the world, but if you're never there, kids don't care.
What would your mother say to edify your father, so when he got home there was respect? What would your father say to you guys to respect your mother? How did that all work?
I mean, my father didn't have to say much. you knew, yeah. You're not gonna disrespect mom.
Strong personality, tough.
Yeah, my dad was a major in the Nigerian army before coming here, and then he was also in the military here, and then became a pharmacist in the military.
So both countries he served.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so my dad was just that military kind of guy. You know, didn't really laugh much. Not for me as a kid growing up. You know, it seemed like he was always just stone faced. But you know, looking back at it, it was just lessons and lessons that you don't realize until you become an adult yourself. But raising 3 boys, I'm sure, wasn't the easiest.
I bet. I can only. And by the way, your brothers are all 3 fighters, or what do the other 2?
No, my oldest brother. Dr. Kashitu Usman he's a doctor in pharmacy, and he was a soccer player. So he played in college and played semi-pro, until he decided to go back to school and become a pharmacist. So that's what he's doing now, and now branching off and getting into the business world as well, and into real estate development. My younger brother was a football player. He's the bigger one, and he played at University of Houston, then finished up at the University of Arizona, and just had his bounced around some pro teams a little bit, and then decided that he wanted to start fighting. So now he's also in the UFC.
Oh really?
Oh wow.
So he's slowly building his own resume.
What position in football and what weight class in fighting now?
He was a defensive end.
Oh, big boy.
So defensive end linebacker. So he was one of those in between guys. He was about, I think, maybe 250, about 6'3", I think. Dang. He was fast, and he was one of those head first kind of guy. He's
that's your brother.
Yeah. So he had the speed to get around guys, so he could either put his hand down or run around.
He's a heavyweight. Is that what he's?
Oh yeah,
yeah. He's a heavyweight.
Sure, he's a heavyweight.
But he's also a tweener. He could obviously, if there was a 220 weight class, that's where he would be. But he fights at about, now when he's really physically fit and in shape, he's probably about 235.
And you guys train together? What's that relationship like now?
Not really.
You're not trying to mess with your brother, or he's not trying to mess with you? How does that work?
No, it's. Of course we could. Like I'm still big brother, and I'm skilled in being able to handle myself. But obviously he's growing and he's getting better. And so when he gets to a point where he has as much knowledge as I have, then it's gonna be a problem.
Come on, were you ever bullied when you were younger? And what was the moment where you were like, okay, I'm nasty at fighting?
I want you to hold that thought. Let's go to Masterworks, to our sponsor. We're going to come back to that question. Go ahead, Rob.
According to CNBC, the world's richest families in 2023 increased their net worth by roughly $1.5 trillion, while many low, middle-income, regular people are like, that didn't happen to me. I'm not experiencing this. And now we're hearing about the fact that the Fed may decrease the rate 6 times in 2024. What could that do to the marketplace? Does money become cheap again? What do people buy? So if you want to create wealth, you almost have to study what they do. What the wealthy, many of them, invest their money into is art. So what Masterworks allows you to do is, let's just say we see an Andy Warhol piece, art, or Picasso or Banksy's $2 million, $1 million. You can't afford to buy that whole thing. Maybe you want to buy a share of it. Masterworks allows you, nearly 900,000 people have registered, to buy a share of that art piece. And many of their investors, some of your retainers who use it, have gotten a return of nearly $45 million buying art through Masterworks. So if you want to learn more, go to masterworks.art/PBD podcast or click on the link below.
Question. Vinny's asking a question.
Yeah, because
bullying.
I not everybody gets bullied, but there are some people that get bullied that get pushed to fight. What were you bullied, Kamaru? Who was it? Who was like that main enemy? And then what was the moment in your life where you're like, yo, I got hands, I can fight?
I wouldn't say. I mean, it's. I guess the term bullying and what we kind of see that as is, just day to day, continuous. A kid gets belittled and things like that. I mean, to an extent, growing up, especially going to public school, well, I guess any school, there's a little bit of bullying that happens. But for me, looking back at it, it's almost kind of character building. you're gonna have those kids that are just want to be punks, and so I had a little share of that, but I wouldn't say I was just oddball to the point where I felt like they had to be something done. But I got into a couple little scraps back in grade school, because when we immigrated here, I think I started the school system in 4th grade.
Arlington, Texas.
Yeah, in Arlington, Texas. So starting in 4th grade, now kids are 4th grade. Kids are cruel and kids are smart, and English isn't necessarily my first language. So now you talk a little different. You have a little bit of an accent, and kids know you're not from here. And so, of course, kids poke fun at you and do certain things to kind of make you feel a certain way. So I had a little bit of that. But, I was always somewhat able to blend in with the crowd and be okay. But I had a couple of scraps growing up.
Gotcha.
And I wasn't a fighter. I did with my brothers, I was.
That was your training.
That's 3 boys. Don't get me, we're going to scrap.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
PBD, you have to tell your story about
me and
Dylan
my little
and
brother.
Tico,
I understand.
please. Yes.
I understand.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You're saying.
Especially me and my little brother. We scrapped all the time. All the time.
What's the age gap between the two of you?
We're about 2 years apart.
Okay.
I think he's 34. Yeah, so we're all 2 years apart. So yeah, that we always scrapped. And I was just something I took from, because my dad was kind of a no nonsense kind of guy. And so I was kind of that way as well, especially with my little brother. I couldn't deal with him being disrespectful. So if he told me to shut up at any point, that was disrespect. We had to scrap. And so we fought for a long, long time.
By the way, I think that's super healthy.
It has to be.
I mean, it's not like you have beef with your brother, but growing up, getting tough, knowing when, stepping on boundaries, when keeping it real goes wrong, kind of a thing.
I think it's an advantage. I think if you're raised with a brother that's the same age as you have an advantage in school when fights break out, because you're accustomed to fighting 50, 100, 200 times with your brother.
Yep.
And if a boy is raised with a sister only, you don't have a brother, you don't have somebody to fight. Yeah. So then the first time it happens, it's the first actual fight you're having. Yeah. So my kids, my 2 boys, they're a year and a half apart. The other day I come home and we're packing to go to
Arizona, right?
Christmas. They're packing all this stuff. So anyways, they find these snow gloves, right? So Dylan puts the gloves on, he puts his beanie on. They're thinking this is gear. So they come into the bedroom and they start going at it, right? And then the first one throws a kick. Now, these guys have been doing jiu-jitsu for 2.5 years, so the first one throws a kick. And then next thing you know, Dylan throws this vicious kick. The whole back is red. The younger kicks the older one. Now it's an official brawl.
Oh, okay. No.
It's a brawl. Jennifer comes out. What's going on? I said, babe, this is a good fight.
That pay-per-view fight
You went to go get a beer and you came back and it was done?
This is a good fight. And they're like, Dad, hey, can we get a ring and get other people to come and watch us fight? I want others to see. I said, we're not doing that, bro. We're not. This is not going to be like a Michael Vick story. Patrick David sells tickets to his son's fights. So that part coming up.
But hold on. But then the end of the story, when Dylan kicked you, I thought.
Yeah, so then I said, Dylan, I want to see how your kick feels.
Oh, great.
Line up. I said, go kick the side. I just want to know how it feels. It did not feel good. I have to tell you.
He's there.
He's going to kick you. I want you to feel it.
I understand.
Yeah.
And Kamaru, the first time I hung out with them on the boat, he's like, yeah, go wrestle with Uncle Vinny. One of them has me in a chokehold, and I'm getting there. And then the other one grabs his wrist and is pulling it, and I'm going. And I just see him laughing, going like, you good? And I was like, they're strong, dude.
It's about the age when it gets annoying. The next 2 years at 14 years old.
I don't want to get kicked.
So how old are they then?
They're 10 and 12.
10 and 12.
10 and 11. 10 and 11. Yeah. And they're it's fun when they're, so we fight, we do wrestling and we fight 2-on-1 against me. I still have them, but it's getting annoying. It's getting annoying. Where you
Usman,
feel it.
He might need you to be a tag team over there against the 2 boys, bro.
I'll stay on this side. But let's continue. So let's talk about this recent fight, Kobe and Leon, that took place. You fought Leon a couple times, and maybe we'll come back to the fights you've had with Leon. But to me, when I'm hearing what he's saying, hey, the comment he makes about his father, and here's what's going to happen when we're going to go to hell, and you're going to do this, and then Sean Strickland comes out and Strickland says what he says about Kobe. He had some choice words. I don't know if you heard what Sean said about Kobe. Where is the limit? Is there a limit of where you can go? Will Dana ever get in and say, dude, leave the wives and the father and the family alone? Or in the fight world, there is no limits?
Well, I don't think that's Dana's job. Dana's a promoter. And so his job is to promote the fights. He has a whole company that he's looking out for. And this is fight sports. I mean, it's very difficult to tell two grown men, hey, don't say that about this. This is not scripted. This is, as the motto is as real as it gets. And so, obviously, me being the man that I am and growing up the way that I grew up, I understand that there's a limit to certain things. There's certain boundaries and certain lines that we don't cross. And I think that goes into just upbringing and the respect factor of just growing up in life. We understand that there's certain things that you just don't do. Just like, as I believe in war, wars are waged with men. Men wage wars. It's very difficult to start attacking women and children. That just has never been a thing that men do. If I have a conflict with that side, okay, I signed, like when they say to sign up for war, it's men that sign up. We sign up and we go defend. And so the same thing with what we're doing, because in a way we're waging war with one another. And so when we do these things, you kind of, that's what men do. We leave those out because it's between us. We have to step in there and we have to take care of whatever we say we're going to do. And so nowadays it's, we're in this weird times in society to where it's everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be heard. And it's information overload. We have these mics, we have these phones, we have these things that we all want to just be out there. And so people they're willing to say or do anything, whether it's men, whether it's women, willing to do and say anything just to be seen. And these guys are just kind of being lost in that, to where I'm not going to be seen if I don't say this or cross that line or do this. For me, I've never been that kind of guy. And I guess that's kind of been a knock on me. Some people didn't like the fact that, when I'm dominating everyone, I'm not belittling them. I'm not, saying this or saying that. And McGregor was the same way. McGregor came out, well, not the same way as me, but when he came out, he was doing the same things. There wasn't a line.
Kobe is what you're talking about.
It wasn't a line. Yeah, there wasn't a line that McGregor wasn't willing to cross. And we saw where that got him. McGregor's probably one of the most famous mixed martial arts fighter ever.
No doubt.
And so with that, you have all these young kids now looking at that and going, oh yeah, I can just say and do whatever I want to do. That's going to make me famous.
I think about this because I see, how the saying styles makes fights. And if anyone knows this is your world. You know this. You guys understand what it means when styles make fights. But do you think personalities sell fights? So does it kind of go to, a Conor comes in. I don't remember him being that loud at the beginning. I don't know, like the first couple of fights. And then all of a sudden he's like, he was louder and louder and louder.
You just didn't, he was loud.
So give a story. Give a story behind the scenes, like how loud.
The light wasn't on.
Oh, I got you.
So I guess that's kind of how algorithm of what the social media is. Is you're loud, but if not enough people are paying attention right away, then it doesn't seem that loud.
That's a good point.
But as soon as more people are paying attention, what happens? More people start putting the camera on you more and more and more and more and more and more. So more and more people start to see you, and it starts to grow and grow and get louder and louder. Yeah, he's been that guy. He's been that guy.
What was your first interaction with him?
Conor, my interaction actually with him has not been many. I don't think we've had a couple, but not many. I actually was at his first ever UFC fight. His first ever UFC fight. But I wasn't in the UFC at that point. I was cornering a friend of mine, Michael Johnson, in Stockholm, Sweden.
Doesn't he live here, Michael Johnson?
Yeah, Michael
we
Johnson.
had lunch at the house a month ago.
Yeah.
Real nice guy.
Yeah. So Michael Johnson was fighting in Stockholm, Sweden, and I was cornering him. And I was one of his main training partners at the time. So I'm cornering Michael Johnson, and there's this guy. I didn't really know too many guys on the card at that time in the UFC, but there's this guy, Irish guy. But I knew who he was fighting, a kid named Marcus Brimage, who had trained with us a little bit. And so they get in the fight, and I'm just like, okay, I know Marcus Brimage. I know he's a talented guy, a very tough guy. And who's this guy's fighting? And then Marcus had told us, oh, it's this young guy that they're UFC's promoting, they're pushing, and this and that. And I never heard of him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I see this, little, slim guy there at the time. And so they get in, and this Irish guy, and they're fighting, and I'm like, whoa, he's not bad. He's actually really good. And yeah, and
He's 24.
Look what he looks like.
He's
No
24.
tattoos, nothing.
Yeah.
no,
24.
nothing. Slim, skinny, sucked down, 145 pounds, and goes out there and makes it look flawless. And he's just brash, and he gets on the mic, and he was good on the mic.
Real good.
And I was like, it's not bad, but I've seen plenty of fighters come and go and come in hot and go. But it's after that, I think maybe one more fight, and then he had like a whole series on Fox, like a 2 or 3 part series on Fox. So now we're starting to see him on this side of the world. And so it just grew and grew and grew. And, he was just a guy that was at the right place, right time, that knew how to capitalize on the opportunity.
And then have Ireland on your back. For UFC, to me, he was like, he just put them on his back, and then UFC embedded, and then with Jose Aldo, and then that was it, bro. That was just...
And Usman, follow up to Pat's question about personality and persona. So your younger brother's just getting started in the UFC, right? So I'm going to use it as a case example. So in business, you have 2 major elements, right? You have the product, then you have the marketing. So your brother's just getting started, or any young fighter that's getting started. How do you balance the product, being a good fighter, actually having the skills, with the marketing, right? Like you see a guy like Paddy the Batty Pimblett, another Irish guy. I mean, I can't look away from that guy, right? Conor, for instance, or even Colby, right? But there's other guys that are just straight great products, right? Adesanya, yourself, whoever you want to put, Ngannou. What advice would you give your brother as far as the product versus the marketing?
Well, I mean, it's tough nowadays. It's really tough because the lines are blurred. They've been blurred, and so I think all these guys are struggling with finding an identity of where they want to be, because you can't your bark can't be louder than your bite, and so that's what you're seeing now. That's what we saw this last weekend. It can't be that way
With Colby, you mean?
Yeah, but and I think my brother is kind of struggling with that, in a bit, because I know my brother. I know the things that make him great. I know the qualities that make him great, make him likable, that make him funny. The things that he does that make him, making him interesting character. But him, in his head, I don't think he sees it that way. The way that because I guess they would say it's an eye of the beholder. He doesn't see himself the way that I see him, that way I know the world would see him.
That makes sense.
And so he might not necessarily want to put that side of him out for the world to see. But even though I think, and I know now that might equate to dollars, he might not agree to that. He might not see it that way. And so, especially, the camera's a very powerful thing. Once the camera's in your face, boom, it changes a lot. People change. Some people come on and some people go in the shell. And I think a lot of people are struggling with that, especially as fighters, because now not only are you just a fighter, you have to be an entertainer as well. And for me, I think it was a little easier because we were still growing into this social media age, and to where I just wanted, and for me, I didn't care about being famous when I came in. It wasn't about being famous. It was just about competing, being great at something, and of course, having a couple of dollars in my pocket.
Who do you think does it the best? Meaning has the bark and has the bite and does it the best?
Today or all time?
Today and all time. Just
all time.
Has it all. The showmanship, but also the skills to pay the bill.
In mixed martial arts or in just fight sports in general?
In your world, in UFC world.
In my world, I mean, it has to be Conor. It has to be Conor because we had never really seen it go to that level. Because I mean, we saw a little bit with Chael, but you know, as much as I love Chael, there was just Chael was just kind of handicapped in certain ways. He wasn't as excellent of a striker as Conor was, and at the end of the day, people will love to see you knock somebody out because that's just, as far as men, that's something that we, you know, you have a problem with the neighbor down the street, you wish you can just walk down there and knock him out. So we love to see that, and Conor was in a position where he was doing that. He was able to say, "I'm going to knock you out," and goes out there and actually gets a knockout.
Picks the round too, right?
Yeah, and so that was something that was so appealing by him, and it was great. Everything was just, he was at the right place, right time in society, where he had that accent too, that funny little accent to where it's, and we all
fuck you up, man.
Yeah, the world loves accents. We love it, you know, and so that it was just the perfect combination. And at the time where he was really on top, I think, you know, Conor, I would say.
Who's doing it the best now?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of pulled away, you know, from that. But if I would say who's doing it the best now, honestly, I'm going through the weight classes. I don't know. I would say Israel was doing great, but you know, he's not necessarily. Israel is a showman, but it's. I would say, I don't know. Honestly, right now, I don't really know. I don't know a guy that's really delivering like that to say, you know what, I'm going to stop this guy this round, and this is how I'm going to do it, and go out there and actually risk it and do it, because what we do is so difficult. You know, it looks easier on TV, but it's so difficult once you're in there. You realize I'm really trapped in a cage.
Are there any guys that you're like, okay, so let's just say Patty, or are there anybody where it's like this guy has a shot, that guy has a shot, or not really anybody coming up?
No, there's some guys coming up, but that the personality might not be there yet. You know, there's Hamzat Chimaev. I think he plays the role very, very well of, you know,
villain.
Everyone's just you know, scared of his presence, of
this guy right here.
No,
yeah,
he's a beast.
Yeah, and so he kind of embodies that, you know, and of course he has this accent too, and he comes in, I'm gonna kill everybody, you know. So it's kind of, you know, appealing to where people want to hear more. So he's a really good fighter. There's a guy that's actually fighting for the featherweight championship, Ilia Topuria, and he's I think he's from Spain. He's a Spanish guy, but good looking kid, can fight, you know, can deliver a great fight, stand up fight, can wrestle, you know, decently well. He's a mixed martial artist, and I think he has the potential to be a star, because he has all the components. Good looking guy, can fight, you know, the way that people want to see him fight. So
26. Yeah,
and he just has all the components to where he could be a star. Oh, Sean O'Malley.
Yeah, Sugar Sean
O'Malley, I think he's doing a really good job of just kind of branding and
he's a good talker. He's a good talker.
Good talker, and he can fight.
And Adam, not to correct, but I mean I have to, because you know people are going to talk crap. Paddy the Batty, he's not Irish. He's from England, actually. But that accent is crazy. English. That accent,
you don't say.
Just to throw that out there, because I know people are like, what is he talking about? The accent is so hard.
Vinny,
from where he's
fuck you up for correcting
what
me.
What the fuck?
You don't know.
Yeah, it's different because he's I think it's a Scouser,
Liverpool
Scouser accent.
Yeah, so crazy.
It's
what was the movie Snatch with Brad Pitt when you didn't understand it?
Yeah,
you didn't understand a word he was saying. The Guy Ritchie. Oh my God, we're gonna go here. Yeah, he's entertaining as hell, bro.
But he's doing he's doing. He just won. He just won.
Yeah, he's getting there, but it's to really see that ascension that Conor got, you got to fight in a particular sort of way. You know, of course, mixed martial arts is still growing. It's still, the world doesn't exactly understand the intricate details of what we're doing. You take a guy down and you're working for submissions. The world doesn't necessarily understand that. The world still understands two men standing, slugging it out. They understand that. You have a problem, this is how we do it. And so Conor was that guy to where Conor didn't necessarily want to be grappling and doing all that. He knew how to grapple, but he didn't necessarily want to be there. He wanted to throw fisticuffs and get you out of there. And that's what I think was.
What are the chances he makes a comeback? You see how massive he is.
I was just gonna say that Kamaru, he lost in 2021. He fractured his leg. Everybody saw. I couldn't even watch it. And I mean, if you can't deny it, if you see before and after, right now he's thicker. Like Adam said, his facial structure is changing. I mean, I get it when you're that rich and you get the top notch, recovery and all that stuff. But is there any hormone or growth or something? Because I know you have to be taking stuff to heal that bone, and he healed pretty fast. Do you think that there's anything?
I don't want to. The thing is, I don't want to speculate, but I mean, when you pull, it's kind of difficult when you pull yourself out of the testing pool, and then now I'm going to make a comeback, and you go jump back in. It raises a lot of eyebrows, but I don't want to speculate on what he's doing or not. But I do think if he does, which he will fight, I think it seems like he's going to fight again. If he does fight, I think it's going to be big news. Everyone's going to watch it because he's just that big of a star. He's gotten himself to that point.
Do you think he goes with an easy W or a challenging guy?
That's the thing with mixed martial arts. There's no such thing as an easy W. This is literally the sport where anything can happen at any time. There's no such thing as an easy fight. You can think this is an easy fight, but even the guy on the street has a puncher's chance. He connects at the right time. Guess what? You're waking up asking what happened.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as an easy fight. For Conor, I just don't think. I do think he makes a comeback. He wins some. He might win fights here and there, but I just don't see him becoming a champion again because it's a different mindset to be there. And it's very, very tough to plug in to that.
And was he supposed to fight? Him and Chandler were building up, weren't they? Kamaru?
Yeah, that's why, though. Is it because the power of broke, when you're hungry coming up, you're salivating in getting your shot, and then when you make a few $100 million, the fire to want to get up early, train, the distractions, I got to go do a photo shoot, I got to go have dinner with this guy, I got to go do this. Celebrities are calling you to get away, and at the beginning, no celebrities calling you. You're just kind of like, you have plenty of time to train.
Yeah, it's all of that. It's a combination of all of that. And what it boils down to is the commitment that it takes. When you're on the way up, there's only one direction you're looking. And that's just where I want to get to. If your goal is I want to make $1 million, and that's all you're focused on. And in order for me to get there, I need that belt. I need that belt. I need that belt. That's all you think about. That's all you focus about. So subconsciously, it just becomes your whole, that's what you're fixated on. That's where you're going. That's where you're going. And you could have bumps in the road, things that kind of, slow you down, but you're looking one way. The whole time you're plugged in. The light might dim here and there, but you're plugged in the whole time and you're getting up there. But when you get there, now different things that you didn't expect, responsibilities are there. Because all on the ride up, all you have is time to train. No one's calling you. No one's, you don't have to go to New York and promote this fight or do this and that. And you're there for 2-3 days, which is 2-3 days out of training. So all you're doing is you're doing all these things and you don't realize you are truly separating yourself from the pack because you're so plugged in with what you're doing. But then once you get there, those 2-3 days were 2-3 days that when you put in, and your mind knows in the back of your head, I put those extra 2-3 days in. These guys can't touch me. I'm better than everybody. It subconsciously creates that identity. And so when you don't have that, or you're pulled this way and that way and this way and that way, the world is catching up. Because there's guys that are looking up to that position and they're coming up. They're still moving. But now your progression is not as fast as it was. It's slowly starting to dim down. So they're starting to catch up a little bit. But then, boom, something happens. And when you're up there, the only way to go is down. You go down a bit. And now having to plug back in, that's the conflict. Because now you know what it took to get there. You know the level of commitment that was. You knew that you were getting up at 6 a.m., running extra when you didn't really need to and you didn't have to, but you just, on the ride up, you were just like, yeah, this might help me. I'm going to do it because it might help me. But now you just woke up in silk sheets. You're like, you know what? I'm good. I'm just going to go to the 10 a.m. training. That's good. I don't need to run at 6 a.m. I'll go to the 10 a.m. training. So when you're doing all that, you know, everyone's starting to catch up. Now it makes it difficult. Like, do I plug back in? Can I plug back in? So that decision to plug back in to be able to get back up there, that's very difficult to do when you don't have those, you know, you're not hungry. You know, you had steak last night. You know, then what do I want to eat tomorrow? I can eat anything I want.
Right.
Or when you didn't have it, it's like, I would love steak and surf and turf.
Yeah, you're eating ramen noodles at that point. You're hungry.
It's like, so the decision to be able to plug back in, I think it's going to be, I think he's bad. I know he's battling with. Damn. Like, how do I become that guy again?
How important is age? Because you guys are pretty similar age. I think he's 1 year younger than you. You're 36, he's 35.
Yeah.
How much does age? I mean, we've seen Tom Brady playing until he's 45. We see 40s. LeBron's about to be 40. The 40 number isn't as big of a deal as it was a couple of generations ago, or even last generation. You're 35, he's 36. How much does age play a factor in that comeback, so to speak?
Oh, it definitely plays a factor. I mean, we're not Tom Brady. We don't have 350-pound guys protecting us, and we're just throwing a ball. You know, not to say that that's not hard. That's extremely difficult. And I mean, what Tom Brady's done, his IQ, being able to break down defenses, and you know, he's a GOAT in his sport. But we are literally breaking our bodies all day, every day. And you know, yes, the world only gets to see us for that 25 minutes while we're up there, but they don't see the 5 months that we put in to get there. That's even more difficult. That 25 minutes is just the fun part. You know, that's the fun part that you guys just get to see. That's not what kills us. That's not what breaks our bodies. It's the months and months and weeks of practice that we're putting in twice a day. Some guys are getting it 3 a days. You're lifting, you're grappling, and you're sparring, and you're doing this. So it's all of that. At the end of the day, the one thing that doesn't change is evolution. It's not just evolution, it's time. As a human being, this is what has been created. Is you're born, you age, and then your body deteriorates and you pass. That's going to happen. That hasn't stopped. That's not going to stop until unless someone creates a magical pill that just stops all of that. But yeah, age plays a factor.
Yeah. What Rogan said about your body was wild. I'm sure you heard what he had to say. Famously, he's like, dude, this guy's an absolute savage. He's a beast, but his knees are all messed up. He has to walk on the grass, not the sidewalk. Sometimes you have to walk downstairs backwards is what all Rogan said. But he goes, it's all about his mindset. Physically, he's messed up, but mentally, he's top notch. How does that all work?
Yeah, I mean, I did that for years. It was funny. I was like, man, I've been doing this for years. I was walking down backwards to where I can close my eyes in the middle of the night, dark, and just walk downstairs backwards without grabbing the railing.
Like moonwalking, Michael Jackson out there.
I got so good at it.
Because of the pain?
It was, initially was, because I was just like, you know what, let me try this. Because I had a microfracture surgery in 2015, and that's because I had no cartilage in that knee, and they were bone on bone, and it just created so much arthritis, and it was just so painful just walking. And I always felt like there was just loose bodies and things in there. And so I was like, let me try going down backwards one day. And I went, and it just kind of relieved the pain of, you know, coming down. I'm like, let me start trying that. So I just started doing that everywhere, and it just became part of my day.
Walking back.
I'm just backwards, coming downstairs backwards. But I think last year I started coming back. I started walking normally again because I realized that what it did over time, because when you come down the stairs a certain way or go up the stairs a certain way, it does build muscle in a certain way. It builds your legs in a certain
cornerback training, going back.
Yeah,
safety.
It builds a different type of conditioning, and I was just like, wait, I've been doing this for years now. Maybe that didn't wasn't the greatest thing for me. And so now, but the pain level is not where it used to be anymore. You know, I've done a couple of stem cells and it's helped quite a bit.
Let me ask this: when I look at like in the business world,
Yeah.
when you lose, it's not business in entrepreneurship. You lose every day. You lose clients, you lose employees, you lose best salespeople, you lose contracts, you lose capital you were raising. Your company goes out of business. There's many things you're constantly losing, but it's not on pay-per-view with tens of millions of people watching you when you're losing, because you lose. People in the company know, competitors know, industry knows, but it's not on the paper the next day with, you know, viral clips going off. And it's got a few 100 million views and everyone's watching it, right? For you, when I look at the list of fights you've had, you beat Edwards, you've beat Kobe. I think you beat him twice, right? Did you? Yeah, you beat him twice. Gilbert Burns, which, by the way, to me, I don't know how much credit Gilbert Burns get. He's a dog of a fighter. So this is not an easy fight to beat him. You beat him. You beat Masvidal, I think, also twice. Yes. Yeah, you beat him twice. Obviously, you have that one clip where everyone's seen, and we're sitting there, and I'm saying, you know, Masvidal's about to get him, and I'm on the other side. I'm like, he's about to get him, and then we're sitting with friends, are like, damn, Pat, he got Masvidal, and then you and everybody's like, what the hell just happened? Made no sense. That knockout may be one of the wildest knockouts in UFC, and then who am I missing? Tyron Woodley, which, by the way, at one point he was a guy that could have gone up, and, you know, maybe Dana didn't like the fact that he wasn't a showman and he would fight point fights. You beat him. And then Edwards, quiet guy you beat before, he catches you in the 5th round with whatever, a minute left, and then another one, and then comes out. The last fight that you had, I think you only had 2 weeks, and he didn't knock you out. It went 5 rounds. That was a decision that was made. How do you go from the high of, you know, one of the most viral knockouts of all time against Masvidal? You beat Kobe back-to-back in that one conference where he's sitting there, you guys are talking shit. You're dressed in a suit, I believe. I think you were dressed in a suit, and you're professionally talking, and he's just calling you out. Let's go right now. Well, let's go right now. And then it goes to this. How do you manage the super, super high to the super low in your world?
That's a good question. It's a very tough thing to be able to do, because you don't really plan for that. No one plans for that. Like I said, when you're going a certain way, you only look one way, and that's up. You're just looking up, and no one thinks about, what if I go down? And that's what they tell you. You don't think about the negatives or what could happen. You're supposed to be just focused on this part, but no one really teaches you how to deal with that. So I think for me, the big advantage that I had is I was never really attached to that. I didn't get into the sport saying, man, I want to be famous, or I want everyone to see me. I got into this going, man, I would really love to compete and show like what I've been working on, the skills and things that I want to best that other man. I want to be in that competition. I want to be the best in that competition. That was really what I was attached to, and making money, of course. I mean, I wanted to be able to provide for my family and support them. So that was what I was attached to. So, you know, once I got there, I didn't necessarily, you know, was like, oh man, I love this, or I love being famous. I didn't necessarily care about that. I still don't care. It still kind of makes me feel a certain way when people kind of run up and, you know, want pictures or autograph. You know, even though I've grown into the role, it still kind of is a little, because deep down inside in my mind, it's like, people want pictures and autographs from me. You know, you're still that kid in the back of your mind. But it's a difficult place to be, because there's a lot of depression that comes with that. Because once you're for me, I would say that part is from, like I mentioned, wanting to be the best at it. I want to be known as the best because I put the time and the work in to be the best. And so when that's not the case, you're not being recognized as that, there is that depression that comes with that. But over time, I learned kind of how to, you know, tools to deal with that. And of course, having a good support system around you.
What is that? What are those tools, the systems?
Well, first and foremost is acknowledging and understanding that it's going to happen. Whether you win, it's going to happen. Even the the Masvidal knockouts, you're on this high, man, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then it fizzles out and you're at home. It's just like, what's next? And then you come down from that. And then there's depression that comes with it. And you have to be able to know how to recognize that, acknowledge it, and be able to, okay, this is the things that I do to be able to help me get back out there or get my mind off of this or pivot. And for me, you know, my family, of course, is some fighters don't have that to where it's solely them. So when it's just you, that's a very difficult thing to be able to deal with. But for me, I have a child, you know, and she comes in the room and she wants to play. You got to play, because and what you're not realizing is that gets you away from just sitting there drowning in your sorrow. It's like, man, I just lost this fight, or what am I doing today? What do I do next week? So my family is my support system and how I deal with that. But definitely understanding, because some guys don't understand. Why do I feel the need to go outside? Why do I feel the need to do this? Why do I feel the need that I'm just inside and I'm sad for what reason? So there's a lot of that comes with it. But you know, it's, you know, I'm kind of in that place now where it's, you know, I've always had these crossroads kind of in my career. You know, I have a crossroads. Do you pivot or do you do something? Do you double down on this? Do you pivot? Do you double down on this? And now obviously getting into the business world too is trying to understand that, because it's very difficult. You touched on something, you know, in business you're losing every day, but there's not that magnifying glass, that scope on it for the world to see, and which makes it very, very difficult, because now starting to get into the business world, it's like I'm starting to understand that, and you know, I'm not all the way in there yet. So, you know, it's been difficult, but it's, you know, it's learning.
How do you learn? What do you read? Who do you listen to? How do you get better at business?
Well, that's something that I'm still working on. I'm working on there. I do, you know, look at, you know, a few guys. But I mean, the best teacher is experience. Is experience. You know, if you never experience it, it's very difficult to just listen to everybody, because what worked for that guy might not be what works for you. And so, you know, just going off of what someone has done, obviously that's a good roadmap, but I guess experience getting in there and understanding, wow, okay, I did that. That wasn't great. Don't do that again. That, I think that's the best teacher.
It's kind of like with fighting. Like, you can watch the videotapes and read all the books and have a trainer, but unless you get in the gym and see what it feels like to get punched in the face, you're never no book's gonna tell you what it's like to get punched in the face.
Very true. But I mean, obviously there's coaching that's involved in everything. If you want to be the best, you know, because a coach might be able to teach you skills that you don't necessarily know. So yeah, I'm definitely in that position. I have a few people around that, and now that's the good thing now is you have access. You know, I guess that's what the popularity kind of buys you is a little bit of access to be able to be around great people and great men that can teach you some of those things. But yeah, I've you know, business is not as easy.
Who's the wildest person where, you know, when you're winning, because in the content world, you'll make a piece of content and then eventually some of the stuff goes viral, and then someone will DM you and they'll say, hey man, I just want to let you know, I don't say this publicly, but I follow your content. Your stuff is good, right? Oh, good. Right? You follow the content? Shit, that's great. And that first time it happens, it's a real, you know, unique experience for a content creator. But for you as a fighter, when you started coming up and then all of a sudden winning and then dominating and then pound for pound, #1, the talks, possibly the top 5 greatest of all time. This was the conversation just a year and a half ago. It's not like we're talking 10 years ago, right? So when conversations like that happen, goats are attracted to goats. So who were some goats that reached out to you, called you out of nowhere, you know, or ran into you or wanted to have dinner with you, where you're like, dude, I'm having dinner with this guy. This is pretty wild. What was that moment for you?
It's been a lot. I mean, and it's still happening. You know, I I guess you don't know your reach because it's not. Yeah, we're connected. We're all connected now, but they say there's a reason why, you know, like let's say Instagram for example, there's a reason why the picture that you posted, you know, your story might have more eyes than the actual people that liked your picture that you posted. You know, more people are watching than you actually do know. And so I'll run into people and they're just like, you know, I'm a fan. These are people that I've watched or grew up watching. I'm a fan of, and I'll, you know, say hi and they're like, oh yeah, we know who you are. And it's like, oh really, you know me? you know, I've had that moment a few times.
What was the first one though? What was the first one? Because that's the one that's it's different. Once you experience,
I guess it's different. I guess it's different level of what celebrity are, and there's been some big ones, and I guess at the time some might be, you know, huge to me, and then you get to a certain level and they get really really big. I mean, Shaq. I mean, me and Shaq are pretty cool. You know, we've you know been around each other quite a few times. Shaq is cool, and I think, you know, spending time getting to know him a little bit, you realize, okay,
super likable guy.
That's a cool guy. That's a guy I could hang around with for a whole week and just be cool. Meeting Tom Brady, when it's actually funny how Tom Brady and I kind of so Tom Brady's he's a fight fan. He comes to fights sometimes, and he was at my fight I think he's been at a couple of my fights, but the one that I remember was he's at my fight in Jacksonville with the Masvidal, the second fight. And so after that, I mean, that fight, because it was the first sporting event back with a live audience in the world. And so after that fight, I'm in the back and just, you know, there's doing the back of house stuff, media, and all of this. And that night was probably one of the most memorable nights that I've had, because just seeing my family around back, it was the first fight my father got to attend live. And so having just everyone there, it was just having a great time. And my daughter was awake and she was just loving it. And I just, you know, remember I'm talking to her and she comes to the back and we're talking and she's having a great time. And she's like, oh man, I asked her if she had a great time. She's like, yeah, I'm having a great time. And she told me, yeah, I was taking a lot of pictures. I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, because that's the thing is she's always been around me all the time. And so she goes, yeah, I was taking a picture with this baseball player and this other guy. And I was like, oh, this baseball player. She's like, yeah, I took a picture with him. And she's like, oh, my Chia Vei took a picture with him. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I didn't really pay any attention at all. Baseball player. You know, I knew a few baseball players. I mean, which I love baseball, and I knew a few baseball players at the time. So
imagine.
I'm just thinking, oh, baseball. There's a lot of celebrities out there. So, you know, a baseball player. So I'm like, oh, cool. So then I get the picture later on.
It's Tom Brady.
It's a picture of it's on her IG, Miss Pretty 2014, and I see the picture, and I'm like, wait, no, this can't be the baseball player. So because her aunt sent me the picture, so she's in bed, and so I wait for her to wake up the next day. I'm like, is this the baseball player? She goes, yeah, that's him. I'm like, what? Really? That's the baseball player, Tom Brady? She's like, so yeah. Funny. And so when I actually went to the game, the New Orleans versus and Tampa, that's when I met Tom again, and we actually got a chance right there. We got a chance to actually speak and catch up, and he's like, oh, hey, how are you? How's your daughter? And I'm like,
how's your daughter?
Like, my daughter, she's fine.
How's your baseball game?
Yeah, when's the game?
You're her favorite baseball player, Tom.
I think I told him the story, but I'm not sure. I'm like, you won't believe what she did.
That's a great
So funny.
Yeah, so, I mean, Tom Brady, it's been a ton of other guys. Like, actors, musicians, a lot of musicians, because I love music, you know. And so right now, Toby and Wigway, good friend of mine, and he's just a rising artist. And the one thing that I just he's like a brother to me. And the one thing that I just love about him is he's so authentic to who he is. He's a family man, and he takes his family everywhere. And I'm just like, man, I would love that luxury to be able to just take them at whatever I'm doing, they're there, front and center. His kids are getting a front row seat of seeing what mommy and daddy does on a daily basis. And not that they're missing out. They have tutors and they have babysitters with them. That's family members with them all the time. And I'm just watching, I'm just like, man, how great is this? Because we don't see this anymore. You know, people don't get that, especially not kids nowadays. They don't get to see that. And just watching him walk and ascend in what he's doing is just, it's amazing.
That's cool. With the stories of who you meet. I remember Tom was at the event with us, and my son, youngest son Dylan, is like, you know, I want to catch a ball from you. And Tom's like, what are we waiting for? Let's go right now. And he was just such a gamer. Like, he just wanted to go out there and, you know, you would think from one end, this guy's the greatest to ever lace him up in football. But on the other end, this guy's just a regular guy who, you know, wants to compete and play the game as much as the other guy does. So,
Pat, you also went across the middle from Tom Brady. You caught one in dress shoes. I mean, at the vault. Come on.
Yeah. But
you caught that ball, Pat.
No one called me for a contract, though. I was disappointed.
The Assyrian nightmare could have been you.
The Assyrian assassin.
Assassin sounds
the Assyrian
better.
assassin. So going back to UFC and you know, with these fights that are taking place. So Jake Paul has this fight with this guy. Andre August, right? And then Georgienko goes and flies out to Romania, and he sits down with Andrew Tate, and they have this interview, right? And the interview does very, very well. George is a phenomenal interviewer, a Syrian guy. We make the introduction. They go. They have a great time. Andrew's like, absolutely, I'd love to sit down with them. And the interview was, by the way, he's actually I don't know if you saw it or not. He's a phenomenal interviewer. But it leads to this conversation about the Tate brothers fighting Jake and Logan Paul. I just want to play this to you and get a reaction to see if you have any reaction. This is George asking Andrew, and we'll play the video from Logan Paul giving his thoughts. Go for it.
Okay. Two brothers, one cage. Jake, Logan, you, Tristan. Who comes out alive?
You know what? I'm trying so hard to not start internet beefs. I'm really trying not to.
You could say Jake and Logan, man.
Bro,
don't worry about it.
No, I can't lie. I'm going through life. I'm trying to live peaceful now. I've got Fed agents in my house. Matrix is after me. I'm just trying to live peaceful. But of course, I have absolute faith in myself and my brother, and I know what we've been through, and I know the kind of men we are.
So now
okay.
play the
Two
clip
brothers.
from what Logan says. Go for it.
That's delusion. That's delusion. I'm sorry.
ain't beef.
Look, Andrew, fighter, legitimate, badass motherfucker, strong mentality. I'm sorry, Tristan Tate is the weak link.
I say let's
He got a bad shoulder. He's shaped like a gingerbread man. I don't want no beef, but that's delusion.
PFO will set this up.
Uh-oh. A MMA
10
double tag team match.
10 million for everybody.
You might have a fight on your hands.
That would go crazy.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. No, seriously.
I'm
let's
about
do
the
it.
action. Like I'm less talk now. Let's just fucking go.
Yo, but you know for a fact, me and Jake will travel to Romania.
There you go.
We will make this happen. We'll do it wherever you want, whatever conditions you want. That's that.
Okay, so obviously we talked earlier about who are good talkers and personality and shit talkers, all that stuff. I mean, Jake is fighting, making $10 million, $20 million a fight that he's setting up, right? They're making all this money with all these fights. What do you think about the idea of, Jake and Logan Paul fighting Andrew and Tristan Tate?
I mean, what kind of fight? What are they doing?
Exactly. Is it boxing or is it MMA?
If it's an MMA fight, I think that favors Jake and Logan.
It favors if it's MMA.
For sure. Jake and Logan, for sure.
Wait, Jake and Logan?
Yeah, Logan Paul. It favors them.
Why
would
is
you
that?
say that?
I mean, they actually wrestled.
Yeah, but these guys get the kicks, man. They're kickboxers.
yeah, that's actually a disadvantage when it comes to wrestlers. You know, if I catch a kick and you fall down, like, it's different. And it's a different balance. When you're a kickboxer, you have to be a little bit more upright because you have to be able to check kicks and stuff. When you're a boxer, you have to be a little bit more split stance because you have to give half your body. So it's different styles. But once you get that takedown, a kickboxer or a boxer has no... See, people don't realize that the regular human don't realize just
the regular
just I guess I would say maybe the civilian human doesn't realize that it's an actual skill to be able to get off of your back.
Yeah.
As a man, can you imagine being held on your back and someone just tells you, get off your back, and you can't do it?
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, it sucks.
I could hold somebody on their back for a day or two if I wanted to.
Give
and
them
you
snacks.
You are just on your back.
Vin,
and
you want to give it a shot?
I can feed you grapes if I and there's,
bathroom break
and
on your back.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like that's.
Are you saying wrestling is the most important thing?
Or just grappling
in mixed martial arts?
Yeah.
100%. It's
Really?
That grab 100% because the thing is, if you think about a fight, there's only 3 places a fight can take. There's 3 positions to a fight. Think about it. We're both standing up, trading punches. That's 1. That's a neutral position. We're both standing up. 2, I can be on my back. You're on top of me, landing punches. Or I can be on top of you, on your back, landing punches. So 67% of a fight takes place on the ground. Now, as a wrestler, my discipline is being able to control which real estate that fight is taking place. So I'm well versed at being down there. So 67% of is a chance that I'm gonna win this fight. And then there's a 33% chance that in a neutral position, anything can happen. So think about that. Most people don't think about that. Like I've won 2/3 of a fight. I've won already because of being a wrestler to just a normal person who knows how to throw hands. And so if I'm well versed in that place, I can take you down there. Or I have the ability to stop you from taking me down there. So it's, yeah, if you can wrestle, that's one of the most important aspects of being able to defend yourself.
So in high school, you were what, 55-3 or some record?
No, it was definitely more than that. But it's I think that was my senior year, my senior season.
And is that like why you're saying? Is that why you're saying that the Paul brothers having the wrestling background, that's that big of an advantage? So
it's an advantage. I mean, obviously, it's declined because they haven't been wrestling continuously
Logan
since they wrestled.
I mean, he's doing his
high school.
WWE thing.
Yeah, but that's different wrestling. That's entertainment.
You're so funny.
Like
That's entertainment.
I'm just saying he's training, guys.
so fun. Stop that.
That's it.
Hold on. Breaking news. You're saying that WWE isn't real?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Rob, don't start crying. But,
Well, I didn't say that.
Yeah, but
I didn't say that.
But real quick, I want to know how important size is, because I got to stand up for my guy Tristan, because I actually asked Tristan that exact same question when we were in Romania. I asked literally the same question George Janko asked him. I said, you and Andrew walk in a room, Logan, and the Paul brothers. I said, who walks out alive? He's like, come on, I don't want to play this juvenile game, but come on.
Yeah,
but my point is this. Tristan is bigger than any of those guys. Tristan's a legit 6'4", big
He's a legit
ass dude.
6'4",
Man.
Yeah, no, size is important for sure. But listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Tristan doesn't stand a chance. Like that's no, absolutely not. I'm not saying that. Like if this is just a fight,
Yeah.
they definitely have a good chance. I would say probably, I would have said Andrew Tate probably is the more, versatile one, the more skilled one out of all of them. But Jake is definitely
coming on.
And I can just tell from that interview, you can see the brothers and you see the differences. Jake is starting to turn into the athlete, the competitor. Initially, it wasn't like that. It was just entertainment purposes. He was still handpicking guys and to test himself. But that's boxing. You gotta get your bearings before you jump into world championship fights. So, more power to what he's doing. But he's handpicking fights. But he's starting to turn into an athlete, and you can see it just from sitting there. When you're an athlete and you're climbing, you start to get this chip on your shoulder. And you see the difference between him and Logan. Logan is more of the business guy. And Logan's obviously a little bit more mature, a little bit older. to where he's more relaxed in his answers, to where Jake is kind of the chip on the shoulder. We can do it right now. I'm about to action. You know, you can see that in them. So he's starting to become the athlete.
What's Jake's upside? If he continues down this path and he's not doing sort of puff pieces and all that, and he's actually fighting in the boxing world.
Yeah.
Right? Because he fought Tyson Fury's brother, Tommy Fury.
Didn't work out.
He lost. That was the first
By the way, but he had a good fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight.
No doubt, but he lost.
Yeah, he wasn't stopped. I mean, it wasn't like just being outclassed in any way.
No, it was close, and I think at one point he knocked Tommy down. But what's his upside if he continues down this path? He's pretty young. What is he, 26?
No, I mean, the sky's the limit. You know, he continued to do his thing. The sky's the limit. You know, what he's being able to do to blend what he's doing, blending both the entertainment aspect of it and still be able to compete is I guess, I don't want to say he's one of the first to do it, but at this level, you know, and in the beginning stages when you're 0-0 and then your first fight and or your second fight and you're getting these many eyeballs and the internet to watch this, I mean it's great.
Speaking of the internet, would this be the biggest fight of all time? Most viewed fight of all time.
What?
The Tates versus the Pauls. Do you don't think that they would get eyeballs?
If it was in a cage.
You don't think so?
All right.
No.
Well, guys, this is the attention economy, the eyeball economy.
Okay, well, it depends.
You don't think that would be a top 5, top 10 fight?
Okay, it depends on what you
eyeballs all time.
Eyeballs.
Listen,
that's what I'm saying. Eyeballs.
Listen, I guess, you know, for entertainment aspect, because the world now is just so polluted with what we call entertainment. Like it's you know, the world isn't really. It's just want to be entertained by junk, and it's junk. Junk sells more than actual reality until the world gets real. And now let's be honest. When Mayweather wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao, that's the world recognizing that these are the two of the best athletes in their respective fields doing this. This is something special that we have to watch. And you saw what that did. That broke all records. But then you get another piece like Mayweather and McGregor, where it's the two of the best in their respective sports. But, you know, yeah, we're curious. We just want to see what this looks like. So the world tunes in. But I mean, you just get guys that just fighting for the heck of it. And like, let's just, you know, lock the Tate brothers in a room for these guys. I mean, they're not the best in their respective fields, but
no, but they're the best at getting eyeballs. Is my point.
Yeah, but my thing is this.
How many eyeballs did
by the way, Mayweather made
Logan
$280 million on the fight, and McGregor made 130.
But at the end of the day, Kamaru, it's like all respect. When people are like, no, you a hater. I'm not a hater. Logan and Jake Paul started on Vine. They're social media guys, all right?
Yeah.
Don't you think, like, to me, this is me, it lessens the integrity of the sport of boxing. Because it's like, okay, I get it that, you know, Jake is getting better and he's coming up, bro. And the Fury guys, whatever, he ain't fighting a real professional boxer. That would be a completely different thing. And my question to you is, Kamaru, like, their fight, like, they would never go MMA. Like an actual professional, they're fighting these people. If you think Jake or Logan Paul
what
can
he's
last,
saying is, if they go MMA, they have the advantage.
No, I'm saying in general, because they're not. Who's the biggest guy Jake Paul has fought? Like, I mean, because Logan fought Mayweather, and that was
just so you know, what he's saying is, there is no case study to see who Jake Paul has fought in MMA because Jake is only boxed, right?
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is Andrew and Tristan. They're conditioning. They're not going to be in the same conditioning as Logan and Jake are, because Logan and Jake are like in their 20s, going, running. The amount of distractions Andrew and Tristan have had right now, like, there's no way you set up that fight if you need payday. They don't need to make money. They're okay when it comes onto that side. But it would get a lot of eyeballs. I would have liked to have seen them peak to peak competing to see what that looks like. But Kamaru is clearly saying, he's not saying if they do boxing, Jake and Logan have the advantage. He's saying if they do mixed martial arts, they have an advantage due to their wrestling abilities.
That would be very interesting.
It's exactly.
I mean,
why.
it's just if it's, let's just say a fight. You know, there's no rules out there. If we're in the street, it's a fight. You know, obviously without weapons.
Yeah,
we're in the street. It's a fight. Yeah, obviously Jake and you look at a street fight. most cases, where is that going to end up?
Yeah.
2 guys rolling on the ground.
Yep.
Okay.
You know, so if Jake and Logan have actually been trained at some point in how to take the fight down there or how to get up from there, I mean, you don't think they have the advantage if a fight breaks out? They 100% do.
Maybe.
And now they also are trained to stand and throw punches as well. You know, which before you would give that advantage to, you know, Andrew Tate, because he, you know, had been kickboxing for a while. But, you know, that's a fight.
Yeah.
They have that advantage in that realm. But
I'm just gonna come out and say it. I'm rooting for the Tates, guys. That's it. I want to see this fight.
I mean, I'm not saying I'm rooting for this guy or that guy, but I'm just giving you the facts here. Like, they would, because they know how, okay, if I grab this leg, I run him this way, he's going to fall down. Or if I run him that way, the balance, you know, I compromise the balance and I get him down there. So, yeah, that's a skill in itself. Being able to know that, it's different. If Andrew Tate was to grab a leg, I don't know if he trained wrestling, you know, but if he hasn't trained wrestling, it's a lot different.
Yeah. Do you guys think, here's my thing, the Tates aside, do you think that they would ever, I'm talking about the Logan brothers, they would
Paul brothers.
Transition, yeah, whatever. I can
transition to mixed
would they
martial
transit,
arts?
like, for instance, like Woodley went from, he's an MMA guy, but he boxed, what's his name?
Yes.
One of the Jake Paul.
He
or whatever.
boxed Jake.
Do you think he
got knocked out?
What I'm saying is, I do not think they would last 2 minutes in a ring with like an MMA guy that's no holds barred fight, like a real fight. Boxing.
He fought Woodley. Woodley. So
no, what I'm saying is, but what I'm saying is, if Woodley fought Logan Paul and it was an MMA like UFC type fight, who wins that fight?
Oh, come on, bro.
I mean, it's depending on what, you know, depending on time.
You don't think Woodley would absolutely destroy any of the Paul brothers? Destroy.
I don't want to say destroy. I do think Woodley wins for sure, but I don't want to say destroy.
In an MMA fight?
I mean, the fight starts. The fight starts with your feet.
On their feet.
You're throwing hands.
Oh man.
And you know they've competed against each other throwing hands, and we saw how that went. And so I wouldn't say, oh, he would destroy him. I do give Woodley the upper hand because Woodley is a better wrestler than them, at least accolade wise. But it's a different game now, I think. And then also you got to account for how much time are we giving them to train? Are we giving them a whole year and a half or 2 years to train for this? You know, because that definitely makes, you know, it definitely makes things a little bit interesting. But I wouldn't say that they would never go into MMA because I think they're young enough and smart enough business-wise to where they understand if I'm going to make X amount of dollars, why not?
FTM,
you know,
follow the money.
Would you ever participate in something like that? Like in the future, doing like a boxing exhibition or not? Is it called an exhibition or is it actually
exhibition? I mean, yeah,
exhibition against somebody like that.
Fight. Yeah, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind. You know, not too long ago.
You heard it here first,
Not too
Jake.
long ago, I was crazy enough to where I really. That's the thing. I was in my mind. I was gonna get Canelo. I wanted.
Oh, really?
Really?
I wanted Canelo so bad.
Damn.
2021, I wanted him so bad. You know, it's this thing. There's this aura of invincibility that when you are an athlete and you put so much time in, nothing can stop you. You are literally just a shield. Nothing can stop you. And I wanted Canelo bad.
Oh, that would have been sick.
And I was like, man, you know. So you saw what Francis and Tyson Fury. I was on that level of belief, if not more. You know, I wanted Canelo.
And boxing, straight up.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be sick.
I mean,
why not? Why not?
How do you think you would have done against Canelo?
How do I think I would
his
have done?
prime, yeah.
I think I would have given him hell for the first 4 rounds, for sure. I think I would have given him hell. But then after 4, let's be real here. These guys, that's what he does. These guys do this. Yeah. And it's a skill in itself. Like, and you watch guys shadow box, you know, and it looks silly. You know, these guys are just punching air. But people don't realize how hard that is to do. You just do that. And these guys, it's a skill to be able to do it for 12 rounds,
right?
13, 20, however many rounds they choose to do that. Just to be able to have the level of just focus, just to be able to just sit there and punch air and imagine someone in front of you. It's a skill. And, you know, and they just have the timing. They see punches. They know the sequence of punches. If you're gonna throw, you're gonna hit him with the jab right hand. They know a left hook is coming. They know to roll. They know to do that. Like, it's just a mastery that they learn. And so, for the first 4 rounds, it's gonna be a little confusing because my sequence is gonna be a lot different than most boxers. You know, boxers can throw 5-6 punch combinations. You know, I might hit him with 2. He might be expecting more. No, it's not coming. And then another one comes at, you know, so it's going to take him time to be able to compute what's going on. But after 4, I can't promise what's going to happen. But
by the way, I'm not going to lie, that Mayweather-Conor fight,
was better.
It was actually really...
Conor got hands.
No, I was very impressed with that fight. And it wasn't a waste of you're like, what a waste of money for this fight. I was actually entertained.
Yeah.
I was actually entertained. Francis against Fury. Who do you think won? This is your brother. So this is
because I'm you know, I'm have to be honest with everything. When it comes to the way that boxing is scored now, you know, of course they're gonna give it to Fury because it's just, I'm gonna throw pity pat even though the punches don't land. I'm hitting. It looks like I have the activity and I'm just moving around, dancing around, pity pat. It looks like I have activity, so they're gonna give him the fight just based on that. But if you're gonna say this was a fight, who won this fight? There's no doubt Francis Ngannou won that fight. You know, he hit him, he dropped him. The more effective punches came from Francis. When Francis hit Fury, Fury turned into a point fighter. And this is Tyson Fury, the best that people are saying the best ever.
Yeah.
Which I don't think he's the best ever, but I do think he's definitely in that top 5 for sure. But I don't think he's the best heavyweight.
Who do you have in your top 5?
Top 5, you got to put Lennox Lewis up there.
You put Lennox in top 5?
Absolutely. Lennox Lewis, one of the most effective heavyweights you've ever seen. Like, you can get past his jab. And then he had the power, he had footwork, and he had the tenacity to go out and get you out of there. 100%, I put Lennox Lewis up there. I mean, Evander Holyfield was a fighter. Yeah. That Evander Holyfield, I think he wasn't necessarily the biggest guy, but you know, that's where heavyweights were really fighting. You know, they weren't throwing 25 punches around. These heavyweights were throwing 60, 70 punches around.
So far, you got Lennox.
I got Lennox.
You got Fury, and you got...
Is Mike up there?
Evander.
Yeah, for sure, I'd put Mike up there. Because Mike embodied everything that a fighter was. You know, he was scary before, he was scary during, he was scary after.
Eat your kid.
And that's part of art of war. It's part of fighting. Is you have to be able to evoke those emotions out of your opponents.
You put Lennox ahead of Frazier? You put Lennox ahead of Frazier. When you put
Muhammad
Lennox
Ali.
top 5.
I put
Lennox top 5 is the one that threw me off.
Yeah, I put Lennox definitely. Yeah, I put him.
So Ali's in your 5?
I put Ali in there because he revolutionized
Frazier's outside of 5.
I mean, I would put him, just outside of my top 5. I mean,
Wow.
if you've got Lennox, Holyfield, Tyson, Fury, Ali.
You're just talking heavyweights right now, right?
Just heavyweights.
Because you know, Rocky Marciano.
Just heavyweights.
Totally get it. Yeah.
I mean, and then you've got guys like you've got what's big
George Foreman.
George Foreman.
Yeah.
You've got Larry Holmes. You've got, I mean, there's some real Joe Frazier. There's some real guys.
But let me ask you a question about Tyson Fury. Back to him. Yeah. And I say this with ultimate respect. I think he's a beast. You're one of the literally physically impressive guys out there. You're chiseled. You're ripped. It's ridiculous, bro. When you look at Tyson, I think
that's what makes him.
Is that what it is? I was watching a fight with a girl, Ngannou versus Tyson. I go, just look at these guys before the fight. She goes, oh, the black guy's gonna kick his ass. Like, who's this sloppy potato out here? I go, wait till you see who wins the fight, right? And because I knew Tyson was likely gonna win, but the fact that he's just not even in shape.
Talking about, look at Tyson Fury's six-pack. Look at that.
He's never had a
What are you
six-pack.
talking about?
He's a beast. He's a savage. He's
His
amazing.
quads.
But how does he not even have like the shape? What's going on?
But it's not, fighting is not necessarily about that. Not just martial arts. It's not necessarily about the physique. There's some guys that are blessed with the genes.
Kind of what I thought it was.
And that's what adds to Tyson Fury's story. I mean, it's the fact that he's proven you don't have to look like a Francis Ngannou, who is just like built like a machine.
Yeah.
And to still be able to excel and to fight the way he does. And even in you see it in jiu-jitsu. You said your kids do jiu-jitsu. I mean, it's not necessarily the biggest, strongest, meanest looking guy out there that wins. You can have a little bitty scrawny guy just basically run circles.
Yeah, like Hoyce Gracie, that guy was choking people out with their geese.
Choking guys out.
But are abs just for show?
No, I mean, of course not.
But, Adam, come on.
But it's good. They look good.
That's what I'm saying.
They look good.
Because the chances of Tyson Fury ever getting abs is like Rob getting abs over here. It's just not.
You leave Rob's abs out of this, Adam.
Just saying, but cardio, stamina, nothing.
No, he has cardio. Tyson Fury, to be able to box 12 rounds.
Dude, that's ridiculous.
12 rounds and throw punches.
Do you know his story? Do you know anything about what you're talking about with Tyson Fury? Like, do you know what this guy did, who he was, what he did?
His entire background to know that he's got sloppy.
Do you know what 12 rounds in a ring is?
I'm familiar with Tyson Fury. There's probably the things you'll enlighten me on, but
no, I'm just saying, like, his story is the ultimate story, comeback, redemption, the father, the family, who they were growing up in the streets, what the father was known for. This is a fighter's family. Like, they're I've
seen his father, his brother. His brother's the best shape guy I've ever freaking seen fighting.
Yeah, he's in shape as well.
But no disrespect to Tyson. I'd root for the guy. I'm a fan. He's a beast. I'm just curious about the
part that was interesting is his father named him after Tyson.
Mike Tyson, yeah.
So he knew.
And Tyson still chose to be in Francis Ngannou's corner.
Wow.
Instead of Tyson Fury. And Francis.
Mike Tyson doesn't owe him loyalty.
No, I totally get that. All I'm saying
is.
No, what I'm saying is, though, I mean, that was part of the story.
Yeah.
It was part of the story you needed for the fight, right? It was kind of like, look,
no doubt.
You chose this guy's name, but he's going to the other guy's corner. It was, to some people, they wanted Tyson to destroy Francis. To some people, are like, dude, Francis is going to, what if he becomes a comeback, he underdog and does what he does?
That father himself is one of the most entertaining guys out there. We talked about the Ball brothers, LeVar Ball. They were that. I don't even know what the father's doing these days. The father, you saw he flipped up the table before the
He's a showman.
Yeah,
he's a showman.
He's a showman.
Yeah, I mean, they understand. They know what they're there for.
Usman, good move, Francis leaving UFC to go into boxing?
Right now, of course, it seemed that way for sure. I think for Francis, it wasn't necessarily about, because Francis was a star. I've known Francis since his first fight in the UFC, and we've been close. And I've that's like my brother. I always got his back and always will. And so he's always been a star to me, and it was just a matter of time for the world recognized it. But I think he was going to get there eventually. I think for him, it was about freedom. It's having that, he's had a interest, a very, very interest in life. So to feel that freedom to be able to do what he wanted to do as an athlete, because we give so much of ourselves to this. I think that's really what it was about for him. And now he has it. He can box if he wants. He can do mixed martial arts if he wants. And that, I think, is the big win for him.
I am so curious to know how he's going to train now that he knows. Like, when he says, Fury comes up to him and he says, I'm going to, you're going to be a student. I'm going to teach you a lesson or whatever.
I actually saw it because I was in the ring. So we're getting out of the ring.
Yeah.
And so Fury goes in his accent, "Get ready to go to school, son." In his accent, and I didn't know if Francis heard it, but I heard it. Listen. So I'm getting out of the ring before the fight, and I hear him say it. Oh, cool. It's just.
Oh, you don't know if Francis heard it?
I didn't know if Francis heard it, but I heard
So did you tell Fran? Hey, just so you know. Okay.
FYI.
So you know.
FYI.
He's talking
He
shit.
said he's gonna take you to school. No, not at all. I just I heard him say it, and I'm just like, I mean, it's just what, you're in a competitive mode, like he's ready to go. And it was just, just to, before I even touch on that, it was just something that there's an energy that you feel, right, when when guys are about to compete. And this is not like any other sports. Like, it's different. This is not a game that we're playing. When guys are about to fight, there's an energy that you just see they turn into humans. You see two humans. And it's a spirit that obviously I'm used to seeing now. But I'm in there with them, and it's like strip everything away. You just see two kids in here and the little boys, they're about to fight. Something's about to happen. And that's the first time, because you from afar, you see Tyson Fury, he's this big, massive star, this competitor. And I see him in there, and then the nervousness and all of this with all the guys, with both guys, him and Francis, you see it. And then he says that, and when he's saying, so I'm seeing this from him, because I'm a fighter as well, so I recognize what's going on, what's happening, the energy that I'm feeling. I see it in him, and then he says that, I'm like, oh, okay. He's a competitor. He's trying to compete. He's trying to get one more word in to maybe mess with your head and get you to not be locked in like that. But then Francis comes out, and I knew Francis. I've said it to everyone.
With a left.
Yeah, I mean, Francis has insane power.
And it wasn't even full contact. It didn't make a full.
No. If Francis hits I think Francis punches a rhino on the side of the head. That rhino's going to sleep.
Who the hell was that?
Is he the hardest puncher out there these days?
Yeah, he has the actual Guinness World Record for the hardest.
Ngannou.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Wow. When he was here, that was about a year and a half ago. His leg was messed up.
Yeah.
His leg was messed up.
Kamaru, who's the hardest in your career that you felt power hitting you? Who was the strongest that you felt?
Hit? I've made a career of not really being hit in there much until I took the kick that ended my title reign. But I was in a fight, not
crazy.
Really. I've never been taking a full on.
Like strength, like who would you say is like the
in
was
practice?
The toughest?
I've been hit.
Who?
Oh, really?
In practice?
I would. There's Francis has. I've actually sparred with Francis a little bit, and he wasn't going full out, but still, I felt what that was like.
Yeah.
To run in, because I did take a punch to the head, and I ran into that. I was like, yeah, that's not good.
Well, what's the weight? What's the weight and size difference between you guys?
Well, I'm about 190 pounds, and Francis is all 270.
Jeez, just rock. And you saw his build right there.
And I took a jab, and I was just like,
you took a jab.
Yeah, I took a jab, and it cracked my neck.
Oh,
so
snap, dude.
I felt it I took it to the forehead too, which is not a place you relatively want to punch another guy, because you could break your hand. And I took that jab, and I was just like, neck's cracked. I was like, I didn't like that. That and
can we not do that again?
Oh, look at that!
I would say Anthony Johnson.
Anthony Johnson,
my buddy, the late Anthony Johnson, Rumble Johnson. Anthony was probably one of the hardest hitting guys.
Really?
It was just something about the way these guys stand, the way they deliver a punch. Anthony was at one point
he's got a highlight reel.
Violent. Yeah. Was ranked one of the most violent.
Yeah, who was a knockout? Because he had one that was.
He had many. He had Glover Teixeira knocked his tooth out in there. He had Alexander Gustafsson knocked him out in Sweden. He had who else? He was just not knocking a ton of guys out.
Yeah. By the way,
he's had some.
If we asked Masvidal who hits the hardest, do you think he'd say you? That was a brutal knockout,
I don't know.
dude.
Masvidal's had a lot of fights, and that's the thing. He's a veteran. He's had a ton of fights. He
used to. I'm from Miami. He used to fight Miami.
Yeah, he has some
with what was
bare knuckle.
Yeah, but it was Kimbo Slice. Those fights he used to do.
That was him
down in Hialeah out there. Wild.
Yeah.
So you don't think that your knockout, which was savage, by the way, you don't think that would qualify as his hardest
I don't know.
knockout
He
ever?
might not remember what it felt like. You know, like that's the thing with as a.
And you said that with Leon. You said I didn't know for 20 minutes you were at.
No, see, it's such a weird. The human body is just so crazy and it's insane. So I think I was down for. I mean, I was down for maybe like, 30 seconds because I wasn't really like out cold. You know, I was out, but my eyes were open and I was there, which is even crazier. So I get up after like 45 seconds, a minute. I'm standing up and talking to my coaches, and they're talking to me, and I'm there. You see the interaction. I'm there. I'm talking to them, but your brain's not on yet. I mean, it's almost like boom, you're rebooting the computer, shut down. You have it turned on. Your computer's on. You see the Apple sign or whatnot, but it's not necessarily firing, the way it needs to go.
You're not sending emails.
You're not sending emails at that point. You're still waiting for it to reboot. So that whole process is autopilot. I'm in there. I'm talking to my coaches. That's autopilot. I shake his hand. I give him his props. I walk out. I'm in the back. I'm in the doctor's tent. It's all autopilot. I'm there. My family's there. I'm like, tell them I'm good. Everything's fine. Good. Boom, they're like, all right, yeah, you look fine, but just for precaution, let's just go in the ambulance, just go into the hospital and get a scan just for precaution. Fine, I don't know why, but we're in there. All this is probably a 15 to 20 minute transition. I'm sitting in the ambulance and I grab my jacket and they take off. So we're in the ambulance and so they're doing their routines. I'm just sitting in there with me and my manager, and they're doing the routine, and they're asking, okay, so do you know where you're at? And it's at that moment I remember actual thought, not what I've seen or what I've been told or what I've because when you see it, you start to put yourself there. But remember actual thought, like, do you know where you're at? I'm like, yeah, of course I know where I'm at. Yeah, I'm in Salt Lake City, UFC 278. Like, okay, do you remember? I'm like, oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Were you in Salt Lake City?
Damn, I'm in an ambulance. Oh, my God. That can't be good. Yeah. So that's when it comes to you.
Damn.
And I think I've even heard, I haven't seen it, but even Michael Bisping, after his knockout, versus Dan Henderson, when Dan Henderson knocked him out, which was a vicious knockout, by the way. He was in the showers, got ready, and then he's asking him, yo, when are we fighting? When's the fight?
Oh, wow.
So he didn't even know he had finished fighting and all of that.
This is why you got to respect these guys and what they do.
Can I tell you a quick Bisping story? And this is actually a question for you. So I'm at a hotel in New York, a high-end hotel, and I'm there with a girl at the time. The room next door is Michael Bisping.
Right.
And he's there with his buddy, and they're like locked out of their room. Long story short, we end up like getting some bottles. I knew some other people at the hotel. I'm partying with Michael Bisping and his buddy. It was hilarious. So anyway, he likes to party.
Cool guy. Really
cool guy, fun guy. Lifestyle. Right, we just talked about boxing. That's the work side of things, right? So, everyone's obsessed these days with work-life balance. I'm more of the 80-20 camp. I work 80% of the time, 20% of the time, weekend warrior. You were at the Soho House party we did a week or so ago. It was sick. It was awesome. Saw you on the roof. I saw you at the tent. You're having fun. People, everyone's living having a good time. How do you manage your work-life balance? When do you party? When do you train? When do you live your life? How do you handle all that?
I mean, it's a very tough thing to do, especially when you're an athlete, I guess a public figure. Now, it's difficult. Like I said, I was never into the whole famous thing, being seen and all of that. So I don't spend that much time in Miami. I've been living down in South Florida now since 2012. And I've probably been in Miami less than 50 times.
But you're in Boca? I think you've been at the hijinks before.
I'm in the Palm Beach area.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
But it's I just.
But not even Miami partying, but just going out, having dinners, going to a bar, having a good lifestyle.
That's what. So that's what you always want that. That's what I was like. Oh man, I want to get to where I could just eat wherever and do whatever, and I like that. I love to be able to take my kids and my lady and my friends, to hang out. But it's different now because everywhere you go now, there's a phone in your face.
Yeah.
Someone has a phone in your face. So, and what people don't realize is, especially when you deal with like people like, obviously Kanye is an extreme measure, but that takes away from the enjoyment of it all. Like you can go somewhere, like you said, with Bisping and you guys are just partying, you're just having a great time. That's great. It's an intimate moment. You guys just chilling and hanging out. That's fun. But as soon as someone pulls the camera out into your face, it just destroys the fun, because it's like, why do we need to document this? This is documented up here. We're actually living it. We're having a great time. So people aren't necessarily living to live anymore. They're living for what I can show other people. And that takes away from it. And it makes me just want to stay in my house. I've always been a homebody anyways, but I don't enjoy it as much, because as soon as I'm sitting there eating and I'm having a great time, and then now you look over and someone's recording you, now it changes.
But don't you have to take the good with the bad? Like, I'll give you a scenario. You know what's even worse? You're sitting there at a dinner and 0 people want to come up to you. Nobody recognizes you. No one wants to take a picture.
I love that.
But that means that you didn't really reach your star status. So,
yeah, but
it kind of comes with the territory, doesn't it?
No, for sure it comes with the territory. But at the end of the day, like we mentioned earlier in the show, we're all human beings. We still want to be left alone, because I'm a human being, and yes, I could be the biggest star in the world, but I'm still a human being, which, my dog might have passed yesterday, or my grandma might have passed, or my aunt might have passed. So I'm actually dealing with human emotions here, and I'm feeling all those things. Right. And I don't necessarily want to be on camera right now. But you don't care, because all you care about is the interaction that you've dreamt up in your head that you would have if you actually ever got to see me. So I think that the hard part is learning to balance that, which, I think I've been doing a pretty decent job of, is understanding that, yeah, people have this expectation of you when they meet you, of who you are, how you are. So being able to at least give them a little bit of that, but still being the human that you are.
I will say this, from having talked to a lot of the guys in your world, you seem very self-aware, and you think with your answer. You don't give the diplomatic answer. You'll give the straight up answer, but you're also respectful about it. So I don't know if you have any desire to get into politics one day, but in a way that you communicate, it's very interesting the way you communicate. It's different, and respect you. And by the way, this brings me to the last thing. So this one video was going viral during this last UFC fight. Can you pull it up? The one where play this clip. I want to get, because you've had some moments with the president, Trump and UFC kind of go hand in hand. So this guy's going around asking different fighters who they think would have won the fight between Trump and Biden, and this is what the response is. Go ahead. You got the audio, because I can't hear it, Rob. Do you hear it or no?
I don't hear it.
It's up on our end. I don't know why. It's the production team.
Guys in the back, you hear it?
Gang, you guys in the back, maybe test audio off and come back on and see maybe if that does that. Sometimes this happens.
Trump or Joe Biden?
Oh my gosh. Donald Trump would knock out Joe Biden within literally 5 seconds.
Oh, Donald Trump would absolutely kill Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't even get down the stairs. Lad, he falls down them when he's walking.
Coach Trump.
100% Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump off the top of the cage just pile drives Biden into the floor. Literally, Donald Trump would knock him out with his lunchbox for hands. If you've ever seen his hands, that guy is freaking massive. And he used to wrestle, so he's a real fighter.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Trump. Joe's too old now.
100% Donald Trump. Joe Biden is too old, bro. I'm sorry.
Trump would punch his face in.
You see Joe Biden can't even ride a bicycle. He's falling off his bicycle. I mean, the guy can't even walk up a flight of stairs.
He wouldn't make it into the octagon.
Maybe he go to the wrong direction. I don't know.
Honestly, I think Trump would yes. Donald Trump would KO Joe Biden within seconds, that old man.
In your profession.
What do you think if Trump and Biden got
Oh, my God.
Are you going to give us a diplomatic answer? What answer are you going to give us if those guys fought?
Well, a fight with both guys would be very expensive. And so Trump understands this. That's not a fisticuff type of fight. That's a wallet fight at that point. So I don't think we'll be seeing both of those guys throw hands, but I think I think just Trump is just still a little bit more active. I think so. He's a little bit more active. He's really witty guy. Sharper than most people think, because when you put the camera in his face, he comes off a certain way. But he's sharper, much sharper than most people.
What's your interaction been with him? Rob, play one of the clips. I don't know which one it is that you got. You found one of them. Is this the one? No, play the other one. Play the other one.
What's that?
This one right here.
Kamaru Usman, where is
says your
where's
name.
our champ? Come on, champ, get up. Man, oh man, oh man. What a fighter you are. I don't want to mess with him.
What's your relationship with him?
I've met the guy. It's like I said, when that camera's on, it's and the media paints whatever picture they want to paint of the guy. Obviously, I'm not deep into politics. I just know how it affects me and my pockets and my family with the policies and the laws that are being made. And so it's difficult when the media is saying a certain thing and they're painting this picture, and that's all you have to go on. And so a lot of people just kind of follow what's being told. But now being in the position to where I'm high enough to where I'm directly affected by those policies and some of those things that are being made, now you start to kind of think a little bit more for yourself. Like, wait, this is what the media said yesterday, but
they lied to us.
But this is what's really happening, and so it kind of, light bulb goes off, and now you start to kind of really dive in a little bit more. But my interaction with him is he's always been cool with me, and let me touch on this. It was when he was president. There's, of course, I don't want to say he's not the best communicator when he's in front of that screen. He's not the best. The message doesn't come across the best way possible. And so this picture is painted of who this guy is. And so you feel a certain way. It hits your heartstrings a lot different. And especially the time where the world is going through so much chaos and so many different things. And so then getting to actually be in front of the guy and actually, hear the guy. And I'm one of those that I hold a man by his word. So if you say certain things to me, then that's what I expect. And it was a lot different than definitely what I expect, because at some point, based on what the media's painted you, I expect to give him a piece of my mind. Like, this is how I feel.
Interesting.
And then it doesn't go quite like that. So then you start to kind of, I think that's a skill as well as being a man, is you start to kind of be able to assess and reevaluate what you might have thought and be open to knowing that, I can't change what I was thinking and my views on someone. But, definitely was a lot different than what I was expecting. I was expecting him to be a lot slower than he actually was, but he was very witty. Smart. He reminded me a lot of my high school wrestling coach. They're very
He remind you of your high school wrestling coach?
Oh yeah, they're very witty with words, very sharp about the environment, what's going on. They know, and so that's what really shocked me.
Were you more of an Obama guy before Trump?
Of course, of course. I'm not gonna lie, 100%. Just based on the representation, based on what he meant, was big. So by that alone, default, I was an Obama guy, but then like I said, when you get to a certain level, you ascend to a certain level, then you realize how direct things affect you. And it's like, well, I worked for this. Why can't everybody else work?
So you were an Obama guy. Obviously, Biden was his VP. Is that by default? Are you a Biden guy now, or how does that work?
Well, they say never discuss politics, right?
Well, because it's undeniable. Come on, I mean, you can't deny it.
But I think, Usman, you answered it. I think you answered it. I think if the viewers listening, you gave the answer. I think you went through a little bit of Usman. I think you and Usman have.
I mean, look, me and Usman were the same guy.
But it is interesting, Pat, because it is
the Jewish nightmare.
It's undeniable of this past 3 years. Like, it's undeniable, and I think it's amazing that you're saying it, Kamaru, that it's, even if you're not really into the politics or anything, you feel it, you see it, It's embedded. All the changes that are happening, we are not in good shape. It's not getting better. And I mean,
Vinny, we're not doing politics.
No, we're not. I'm not asking,
go, bro?
I'm not asking who he's
Vinny,
voting
you wanna
for.
go, dude?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? I think America relates more to him. And what I mean by that is, like, when I first got into sales, you know, we've always voted Democrat. It's always been what we were. I'm Armenian, Assyrian. We're from Iran. It's like, you know, the rich Republicans are for the rich, the Democrats are for the poor. And then you go into sales, you work, you're like, wait a minute, how come that you're leaving home early and I need to pay for your stuff? Why don't you stick around late and train for this? I don't feel sorry for you. Why am I getting punished for me working twice the amount of hours as you? Then you realize, dude, no, man. The same way in the gym, that guy's getting this and he's getting a better locker than me, and I'm here twice as many times. Small little experiences like this, you start realizing that those policies just don't work. And sometimes that takes a decade or two for some to figure that out. Usman, this has been a blast.
Thank you.
Having you on, brother. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed getting to know you even more. You're very interesting. Very self-aware. Like I said earlier, your answers, you'll give the answer, but you're going to give the answer based on the way you view it, and it's smooth, your answers. But I really, really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in the future, brother. Thank you so much for coming on. Gang, take care. I think we got a podcast wrap tomorrow, and we got one on, I think Thursday's actually Kobe coming here.
Is
Thursday Kobe coming?
Covington on Thursday, and tomorrow home team with Emily Austin.
Okay, so that'll be tomorrow.
That'll be interesting.
That should be interesting, yes. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Who's that?